prompt where I got to hit. See, and Tim beat me to it. Thank you. He's playing assistant director today. So thank you, Tim.
You got it.
Okay. Welcome everyone. If I stopped my screen, oh, this is perfect. I have our 4 guests, or I should say my co-host Tim and our 3 guests. So welcome everybody. I'm Joel. Welcome to the weekly briefing. Today is Wednesday, August the 23rd. It's 5 o'clock here in New York. Tim, are you back in LA? Is it what, 2 o'clock there now?
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock in Newport Beach. So it is nice. The hurricane blew right through with nothing, didn't touch anything. So all's well over on this coast.
Great.
Well, I'm looking forward. I'm really grateful to have these 3 guests here with us today, because we're going to do a bit of debriefing and I think talking about a particular pain point around sales and marketing. Let me just mention before I introduce everyone, Tim, you know, I told you I was going to do this before I forgot.
I was going to make
right. It is. We are kicking off our accelerators, week after next, or end of next week. So I just have to kind of do the shameless plug before get this out of the way. If you're interested, go look at Jumpstart, Derail the Pitch, Factors Method. 6 to 7 Summit, it's closed. We just did that in New York City last week. And that's what these 3 awesome business owners are here to talk with us about. So Amanda, would you say hello? Tell everyone who you are, what Cream does, and then you can pass the microphone to Shawna and then to Kendra.
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Amanda Russell. I'm usually quiet on these calls sometimes. I'm one of the co-founders and creative directors at Cream Studio. And we make animation like most of you, but also we create delicious visuals that will leave you wanting more and licking the screen and some other stuff that we decided in positioning and we haven't really worked out yet. So just stay tuned.
Click the screen. I think that's the catchy one.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Shawna, you're up next.
Delicious. I am Shawna Schultz. I am co-founder and executive producer at MassFX Media, and we're a design-forward post house, working mainly doing motion design for feature documentaries and series and direct to brand. How about you, Kendra?
Hi, I'm Kendra Eash. I'm a co-founder and creative director at Andor Studio. And we like to say we make clever things for screens of all sizes, but we're primarily focused on motion design, animation, a little bit of live action, based in Brooklyn, but really in the cloud now. And my partner, Kelly Miller, I think is on this call too. So happy to be here and very happy to talk about this summit, which was very helpful.
Well, thank you for saying that. Tim is also here. As you may have heard, he said he's going to be our assistant director behind the scenes. So Tim, we'll call on you or / pick on you as the situation warrants.
That's nice. I'm actually going to jump off of being pinned then. You guys have
okay, cool.
All the pressure's on you now.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so for context here, I'm going to just mention for everyone's benefit, this event that we did last week. So we got together here in New York. There were about 18 principals that all got together. These are studio and production company heads or leaders. And after an amazing dinner Thursday night, where I have to say, Amanda amazed me with her sense of humor. That we spent all day Friday with Joe Nash. And for those of you that know Joe, he spent the past 3.5 years at Buck. And the whole day was this trying to answer this question of what does it look like to have a business development strategy that drives not only sales, but helps us break into brands. It helps us grow 6-figure projects into 7-figure accounts, like some of these big studios have done. That was a tall order, because in that day, let's just say we went through a lot of material, a lot of strategies, a lot of tactics, and so forth. Does anyone want to maybe raise their hand and give everyone here at least your overall I don't know, like, what was that experience like? What was the feeling of that day, of everything that we tried to cover and tried to learn?
I can talk about it.
Amanda's
Okay.
first.
I'll do it. Yeah, so I didn't really know what to expect. It was my first time doing anything like that. I think for our studio, what we've struggled with in the past is figuring out, how do you just get a client like Google or Apple, and like, what it seems like every time I go to a conference, everyone there is like, oh yeah, I did the same for Apple and Google and whoever, and that's a little frustrating when you work so hard to work with clients like that, or whatever. So that's what I wanted to learn. I wanted to get there, and we did, and it is way more work than I was hoping for, but it makes sense. I mean, they're the ones with the biggest budgets. Clients like them are going to be expecting the same sort of process. And so it was reassuring, but also it made me realize, okay, we are doing it wrong. And I have the exact answers of like how to get there. So I feel really good about it. Plus all of the owners and like everybody there was amazing. So great group of folks. If you ever get an opportunity, you guys up there in Zoom space, you have to go. It was great.
So Kendra, what about you? Was it more than you expected? Was it different than you expected in terms of just what we were trying to cover and teach? And by the way, I'm going to share my screen so people can see a photo or two of what this was like.
Yeah. I think overall, just super helpful. I mean, I think I was talking to Kelly this morning about it, and I was like, we kind of came up with this word like humbling because I think, in the past, we've been doing our studio for almost 10 years, and we never have had a new business strategy. And it was frequently overwhelming. It often felt like throwing case studies at the wall, spaghetti at the wall in the form of case studies or cold emails or whatever. And I would get like distracted going down different, like, ooh, this person's on LinkedIn. Oh, well, we should do that, right? Whoa. And just felt like, it felt like rudderless. So the most helpful thing about the summit, amongst many helpful things, was just Joel laying out like a plan with step-by-step processes. And then the other thing I'll say, and we got a lot of like really hands-on information too. And then the other thing I'll say, like the biggest takeaway is that there's a strategy to new business. And the main part of that strategy is like understanding the need of the clients you want to target, having clients you want to target, but then understanding their needs and working from there through research, through doing your own campaigns, almost like marketing 101, which like, I don't know how many of us would describe ourselves as marketers. Like I'm a creative, like, and I work on marketing campaigns, but it's kind of a mind-blowing thing to be like, oh yeah, we need to treat our own studio like one of our clients and do a full marketing campaign for our studio. Mm-hmm. That can take different forms, but
can you go potty?
So interesting. That was a funny little nugget. Was that you, Tim?
No, it was not me.
All right, well, we'll find that person and mute them. But I love those little notes from the peanut gallery. Shawna, what about you? Was what was just like your overall top level like sense or feeling going through the day?
Yeah, I feel like I second everything Amanda and Kendra said. And I would add to that, going into it, I think one of my goals was like, as we grow Mass Effects, like we're in this big Mass Effects 3.0 moment where Matt and I have this vision for where we want to go. And it's like, how do we get there? And I kept saying like, here for 12 years, I've been sitting on my hands and like, we've gotten this many sales. Like I have to be able to do better. Like I'm not good at this. This could be all the tips and tricks to help me to that next level. And I think one thing that I discovered was like a lot of what's working is what Joe's talking about, is like business is relationships. When I say I'm sitting on my hands, it's actually, as the owner and as the salesperson, you have repeat clients and you have recommendations because you treated your clients well, because you've done great work. Like as a studio, you already have those pieces in place. And I think what 6 to 7 helped me like rethink is like, how do you show off some of that? And then how do you continue in a more, what's the word, a purposeful way of just like, you make routines about it instead of just happenstancing. In my case, I love going to festivals, and that happens to be where my clients are. And so here at film festivals, I'm doing that relationship building, because the big takeaway of just like business is just people. Like it's just people. And when you go show cool people that you do cool stuff, like you can do stuff together. And that's like sales. And I think the second big thing was the data, of like forcing us to go through all of our data. I went through the last 3 years. One, I was so proud of our team because we had all the data that he was looking for that business intelligence hub. And so filling out that BI hub and getting all of the insights that came from that, I had like 12 questions of like, how do I see this? How do I understand that? And I think we just haven't been taking advantage of that data that we've been collecting already. And that's so important if you're going to grow and scale your business, is to have the insights of what's actually been working, rather than just being like, I don't know, people call me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to mention, I was struck by this thought, because I've been processing the day and some of the big takeaways. And the thought I had was, first of all, who here got their ass handed to them in 2023 business-wise, right? In some form or another, right? And pardon my French, but most everybody here had a horrible first quarter and a terrible second quarter. Because why? Well, advertising has kind of been in decline. And linear and broadcast and OTT and streaming has sort of been in decline. The different sectors of our industry have sort of been slowing down and spreading out. And what I realized was, all these people that know how to buy from us, everything kind of slowed down. The people that have the needs, which are basically the brands, they don't really readily know how to buy from us. An agency can call Shawna and be like, hey, I got this thing for you. A TV network can call Kendra and be like, hey, I got this thing. I know who you are. I know how to buy from you. So your point, Shawna, about data is actually looking at what are really the problems that we solve, what are the jobs that need to be done, and then where are those needs out there? And I think I was sort of like, I don't know, I was excited, but also at the same time, like a bit overwhelmed with, okay, it's going to take a lot of work and research to find those people, to target them, to do the research, to do the outreach. But I think, like everyone here, once you know that's the method, and you know what, it works. I'm curious if that was your takeaway. Like, okay, well, this may be hard, but if I know it works, I'll do it. Who had that feeling? Yeah. You, Amanda?
Oh yeah, definitely me. I mean, probably everyone, but some of the things that were resonating with me, you know, we have a few clients where we did target them and we did something similar, and they're large and it took a long time. And this was, I'm going to say 3 years ago when we were kind of dabbling in this kind of mindset. And it makes sense. Like, why wouldn't I just look back on those relationships and go, oh yeah, okay, I'm just going to do that again. I think because it's so much easier to just wait for people to come to you, or to do quick, you know, like mass emails or newsletters. It seems like, well, I'll just go out for all of these people instead of one or two, but really you're not doing anything special. To research and really figure out, okay, these people are right for us. We are right for them. We make the same kind of work that they're looking for. Doing all of those targeted approaches and waiting and being patient. And I like to say, it doesn't make any sense, but it's like fishing for squirrels. You don't want to scare them away, you know, because squirrels are so, you want to like wait. And eventually after a few touch points, then you can establish something and makes them feel like they discovered you, instead of you just, kind of, hello, I'm so and so, and here's my studio, and here's all of the things that we do. It's like, whoa, pump the brakes. It makes perfect sense. So those were really great takeaways, and just trying to be best friends with your clients whenever appropriate, and getting on a text thread with them instead of keeping everything really formal like I tend to. I think that was good information.
Do you remember when we got into the part of the day and some people were saying, hey, can we look at a really good cold outreach script, for email or whatever? And we were like, sure, here's one. But guess what? Never reach out cold. Ever. We're like, you're going to send this at this particular time after there's been a touch point and a touch point and a touch point. And it was interesting just to basically tell everyone, just stop reaching out cold. Just stop. It doesn't do anything. And you think it's accomplishing something, but it's not. So it's ultimately a distraction. Kendra, what any other just top of mind takeaways that you want to share?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just to jump off what Amanda was saying and what you were just talking about, this concept of like touch points, which is really just for everyone here. Like, it's not a secret code or anything. It's really just like having a targeted client or multiple targeted clients. You've researched their work. You've seen that they probably have a need for the thing that you do as your studio. You've done all this work, which Joe took us through. And then when you're ready, you start creating assets and creating a creative campaign for your studio, basically. So these touch points are things like, maybe you send a targeted newsletters with work that is specifically targeted to that client you're targeting. Maybe you go to a conference where they're at. Maybe you're posting on LinkedIn about the topic that is related to the work that you put in your newsletter. So like, you're creating this sort of like, I mean, Amanda was saying like us fishing for squirrels, like, or we're like trying to capture the perfect client, but that's what touch points are, is just like creating this sort of web where they end up. I think the term used in the summit was like, how do you make your studio the choice of one? Which is like, there's no option not to choose your studio for this work, because they've seen you here, they've seen you here, they've seen you here, they know about you. You have some click through that says they looked at your work, they know who you are, and then that's when you email, that's when you reach out. And I found that really helpful to think about, like, just that strategy piece to all of it, instead of being like, oh, they like this type of work, hey guy or girl, like,
Yeah,
you want to work with us, right? Like, just not helpful.
I'm curious, Kendra, if this resonates with you, because I think of this gap where the gap is small. If it's an agency or maybe a TV network, like the gap to know that Andor is a good fit for us, it's pretty small, because I can look at their work. I kind of know what they do. I get them, I understand them. And I say, hey, can you help us? And we close that gap and we do business. But as soon as you start getting out into other spaces and all these different brands, that gap gets really wide. If a brand looks at your website and sees, we do animation, we do typography, we do live action. I think a lot of brands see that and they say, I don't need that. I need to solve a problem called launch a new product. So if you are describing your services and all this stuff that you do, or just showing me your work and expecting me to figure it out, I can't close that gap.
Yeah, I mean, just to answer that real quick, I think that the key to that problem, which is again like a duh, right? Like, it is like, just listen to what your clients say. Even the clients that you've gotten in the past, what did they say when they gave you that project? And in going back and thinking about our past clients, it's often like they are making that decision based on their need, and they're telling you that. They're like, we think you guys would be a really good fit for this because of blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, great. We have a new project. But if I go back and listen to that, and then I build my strategy based on what they perceive us as and what their, the need that they were trying to fill with working with us, I think that's really, yeah, it's game changing for me.
So we spent about an hour at one point during the summit, and we said, let's actually throw Joe into the hot seat and let's have him target someone at a brand. And we picked Bubbly, and we said, all right, let's do work with Bubbly, the soft drink company. And he took us through the whole process, right? Of let's find the people that are there. Are they decision makers? Is there an agency involved? Let's find out. Oh, this is the creative director. Okay, she's at Pepsi. Well, what does she read? Where does she hang out? Where does she go to school? Like, and then let's build a campaign to create touch points so that when this person sees this and sees that and hears this and hears that, I don't know about you, but I thought, well, yeah, I mean, if I was that person at that brand and I was seeing these touch points that like speak my love language and help me understand how you're going to help me do the job that needs to be done. When you finally reach out to me, it's like you're now that company of one that you mentioned, Kendra. Like, oh my God, I'm so glad you reached out because I need that. So that's exciting for me. Now I got to pick up on this comment here from Ryan, because Ryan, you were there at the, this is Ryan Summers. You may have seen his comment, but Shawna, I want to get your comment on this because you mentioned something about that was very akin to this. He said, not going to lie, relationships are your resume, not your work. Kind of blew my mind. Is that along the lines of like, what was your takeaway? What do we do with that?
Yeah, I think building like meaningful, authentic relationships is part of that. Of like we were saying, of like, don't send the cold call emails. Nobody's going to answer that. But they want to see you kind of like surfacing. They want to start hearing your company name. They're like, oh, that's neat, as it goes by on LinkedIn. They meet you at a conference. I think the key to that is patience. I think, Amanda, you mentioned that in there, of just like that fishing for squirrels idea. A part of me kind of went to the like, we went through this whole summit. And it was kind of like that thing of like, so it turns out to lose weight, you have to do diet and exercise. And you're like, dang it. It turns out it's that answer every time. Like to do good business and have solid clients, it's good relationships. And I think the patience of building that is really big, like building that trust. I feel like what we do is so subjective, like with graphics, and especially like documentary graphics, where it's not like we're selling a product. It's like, we're trying to tell this greater story about climate change and change people's minds. And we interviewed these people, and it's like, how do we then put graphics on that? Like, what is it, green or is it blue? It's such a subjective choice. And we can't quite sell it right at the beginning. We can't show you everything we're going to do. It takes time. It takes change rounds. And so building that trust to be like, trust me, just look at this piece for now. We're going to get there. I promise. That relationship and that trust takes so much time. And all of that is the sales strategy of having those touch points, making sure you're the expert. They're seeing you out there in the world. And you can't just have it like that, especially if it's not, if it's going to be a 6-figure or 7-figure client, of just like that, the level of trust it takes for them to hand you that much money and deliver. Yeah. Like you have to build that. And that takes a long time, which is like seemingly obvious. But
I would, if you don't mind, I just wanted to give everybody a takeaway that like what they could do right now, which I found really helpful.
You beat me to it. Love it. Go for it.
Well, great. So one of the things that was really helpful is like, go into your existing clients, the ones that have the most potential, and forget about the ones that you don't like, or that they don't have a whole lot of potential. Just keep it simple and do your research, reach out to them, and try to see if they will just have a sit down meeting with you where you can learn. You're not selling anything. You're just learning about their problems, their budgets, their vision for the next year, like what campaigns they are doing. And also start learning their language, their terminology, so that you can better serve them. Using their language is really helpful. But so I did this literally today on a client call, and she was super receptive to it. And then for the first time ever, she gave me her cell number, like her personal cell number. And she was like, I don't want, my work email like following us. So like, let me send you a bunch of, it was the makeup stuff that we eventually went on to, but it's a jumping off point for bigger conversations. And she is notoriously tight-lipped and kind of closed, kind of hard to get through to. That was the first time where she's been like, yeah, let's connect. We'll just talk about stuff. So, but we're also going to talk about work stuff. So I just wanted to throw that your way because I thought that was really helpful.
Wow. You're gonna make me get emotional. It's so cool. I'm like, really? Like you haven't been back from, the summit for more than a couple days and you're already seeing signs of progress. Shawna, Kendra, either one of you have some sort of either a win already that you're like, this already happened, or like, this is what I'm doing now. This is my next step.
I think for me, a big one that is kind of sub-related is invest in your people. Because I think, you can sell as much as you want, but if you're not supporting your team and building them up and they have the right resources and you have the right people in place. I love the conversations that we had there of just making sure that you're investing both ways of like the relationships with your clients and then with your people. When I came back, I shared with the team that big thing of like, we're not doing projects. Like MassFX doesn't do projects. We solve problems. And I was like, yeah, I love that. I think that was Joe, or maybe Joel just had that. Just like, I love that we come into the room and we're not like, another project. Like we're seen as these problem solvers, which means it's a harder job for us to do. We're not taking an order. And so as a team, like, how do we make sure we're supporting each other? We've been talking about training. We've actually shifted our management structure and some of the things I'm thinking about of where we're going. And it's just been awesome to invest back into the team after learning so much, because I'm like, prepare yourselves. I'm about to bring a lot of work in here.
I love that. All right, Kendra, what's your take?
Yeah, I was 1/10 into the presentation, like presenting it to our EP and Kelly was stopped and was like, this seems like a lot of work. I was like, yeah, I know.
You're like, yeah.
No, I'd say like kind of two takeaways that we've started doing already. One is, or I've started doing already. One is like looking at our work and our goals, and we need to have further conversations about that, Kelly and I, but really like breaking it down into like, what are these targets? Like, who do we want to target and what makes sense out of those targets? So for example, like we do a lot of DEI work, like it just has come to us various forms, and I've never thought about like going and doing a campaign or targeting like DEI groups at big brands or agencies. Like hopefully no one steals my idea and then I'm not competing with all of you to target DEI groups, but we have the work to support it. It makes sense. People seem to think of us for that stuff. So that was kind of like okay, that's one thing we could do a campaign for. And then I wrote out like 10 other ones. So just having some sort of guide to do these campaigns and to do this new business is super helpful. And then the second thing I'll say, I love what Shawna said about like, oh yeah, it's always diet and exercise, stupid. I think my version of that with this is like, it's always about personal relationships, and meeting in person, having any sort of in-person interaction is better than any of this like stuff we could do. Like it's always better to meet someone in person, have them know your face and meet them. So for those of us that might be like, I don't want to go, I'm not an extrovert, or I'm not, that's painful, just do it. Like you kind of have to. And it's minded once we do it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we said several times, be curious and be a good human. Doesn't mean you have to be the world's biggest extrovert, right? But be curious and be a good human. That diet and exercise thing, some of you may have seen on LinkedIn, I posted something that basically said sales is like food and water, right? If you don't get it within a few days, your studio dies. But marketing is like diet and exercise. You can go a long time without doing it, but eventually it catches up with you. And when it does, right, there's somebody telling you, you have to turn this around. You have to get healthy again. We have to put your life back in balance, because it takes a long time to get it back. But I think at least now we have a roadmap. So to wrap up, I know we're 2 minutes over here. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone that was there. You guys are amazing and generous. And I love how much, having everybody there was freaking, very beautiful and powerful, very significant for me personally. The last question, I just want to hear like yes or no. We had a thesis, we had a central theory about this day, and that was, is it possible to do a big project for someone, right? A 6-figure project, and to do it in such a way, and to build a relationship in such a way, and understand those deeper problems in such a way that you feel like, you know what, now I have the raw material to nurture this into potentially an account that could even be a 7-figure account. Do you feel like you now have permission to go after that brand or that company, that entity, and get in there and forge a relationship? Yes?
Yes.
Is it possible? Is it doable?
Yeah, 100%. I think it was like exactly what I was looking for. I think when I was mulling over, can we do this right now? It's a bad year. Can we afford to invest in this? You guys answered all the questions that I was hoping to get. You gave me a roadmap, and we even practiced it. So, I mean, it's yes, 100%.
Do you all remember, Amanda, when you started doing your mental thing of like, but they're already being serviced by all those other people, and I'm too small, they won't pay attention to me, and I'm not in their system, and remember, and we just kind of let you go and list off all the objections.
Talk myself out of it. No,
Yeah.
it was at the end of the day, and I remember just being like, but it's so much, how am I going to do this? I needed to sleep on it a few times, and but I get it now. It just takes a while to process. It was a lot of information, but I'm more confident than ever that we have a plan to like move forward.
Well, thank you all. Thank you so much for being here and sharing generously with each other and with your peers. Super proud to count you among my peers and my friends. And it's obviously an honor for me to organize these kinds of things with Tim. And a huge, huge shout out to Joe Nash. Joe is the bomb, and we look forward to having him involved in more events in the future. So that's the weekly briefing. Give everyone here a high five in the chat. And if you're not a member of RevCommunity, we invite you to be there, because that's where the conversation is kind of always going 24 hours a day at times. If you want more info on that, go to revthink.com/community. For many of you, I'll see you guys in one of the accelerators that kicks off in a week or two. So looking forward to that. All right. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week for another weekly briefing.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.